Hey guys, I'm here for this channel and welcome back to another video. So today, I have a super creepy pasta story that was submitted by one of our viewers. This is another viewer's story, so all credit goes to them for this story. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. It was a Friday night and I had just got done with my shift at the hospital. I work nights there as an orderly and I came home around 7 in the morning. My fiancé was still asleep. I'm going to call him Jono. We have been together since high school. He was still sleeping when I came in the door. I went to the bedroom and laid down next to him. And he stirred and mumbled something and turned over and went back to sleep. I stared at the ceiling for a while. I was trying not to wake him because he works such long hours that when he sleeps, he really needs his rest. I ended up falling asleep myself. I woke up around noonish. Johnny was still asleep and I didn't want to wake him because I was off work until 6. So I got out of bed and went into the living room to watch TV. For some reason, I don't know why, but I decided to take a quick nap. I walked back into the bedroom and laid down on the couch. I fell asleep pretty quickly. When I woke up again, I must have dozed off for maybe 2 or 3 hours. Johnny was still asleep and I still had some time before I had to get ready for work. I went into the kitchen to make myself something to eat. That's when I noticed it. There was a pair of eyes staring at me from across the room. I thought, wow, that's weird. I looked away and went back to making my food. Then I glanced back at the other room and the eyes were still staring at me. I told myself it was silly and that no one was actually there watching me. I continued to eat. A couple minutes passed and I started to clean up my things. As I did, I kept glancing toward the room where I saw the eyes, and each time I looked over, the eyes were still there. At this point, I was getting creeped out. I got up on the couch and slowly made my way toward the room, the whole time keeping my eyes locked on the corner of the room. I felt like if I took my eyes off of it, whatever was there would come out and get me. My heart was racing. I don't even know what I was expecting to see. Some wild animal, or maybe a person. I got close enough to the corner of the room to where I could make out what was sitting there. It was our cat, Midnight. Relief washed over me, and I could feel my heart starting to calm down. But then I noticed something strange about Midnight. Midnight is a black cat, and as most people know, they can't see during the day. And I had seen him for at least 5 or 6 hours earlier that morning when I first got home. He should have been sleeping. Why was he sitting there watching me? I asked myself. Maybe he just wants some attention, or maybe he's hungry. I went over to his food and water bowls, and they were both full. He hadn't eaten or drunk anything in the last few hours. And besides, he usually isn't this friendly. He jumped off the couch and started rubbing against my leg and purring. I pet him and told him how good of a kitty he was. I tried to forget about the incident and go about my day. About 2 hours later, it happened again. I was in the living room watching TV when I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. I looked over and there were the eyes again. This time I wasn't as scared as I was confused. Why was Midnight sitting in the same spot watching me again? I couldn't understand it. I went back to watching TV. A little bit later, the eyes were still there watching me. I got up and walked toward the kitchen. Midnight followed closely behind me. I turned around and told him to go away. He just stared at me and then turned and went back into the other room. I went into the room to check on him. He was laying down on the floor now. I sat down on the couch and he came over and rubbed against my leg again. It was at this point that I noticed the expression on his face. His ears were pinned back and his eyes were wide open. It was like he was having some sort of seizure. I stood up and went over to him and reached out to pet him, but he swatted at my hand. This was very uncharacteristic of him. I had never known him to be aggressive toward me. I backed away and he hissed at me. I was seriously freaked out at this point. I called for Johnny, who by now had woken up and came into the room. I told him to look at Midnight. He came over and crouched down next to Midnight to try and pet him, and Midnight hissed at him too. Johnny was confused, but he just figured that Midnight was sick or something. We tried to feed him and water him, but he didn't want anything to do with either. He just kept pacing back and forth in the room and occasionally would stop and stare at us with those crazy eyes. We tried to be calm and rational about the situation, but we were both getting creeped out. I said, let's just wait till morning and see if he gets better. If not, then we'll take him to the vet. I went into the other room to get away from Midnight. I started hearing strange noises coming from the other room. I could hear what sounded like chains dragging, metal moans and growls. It sounded like something was in pain. I was so scared that I ran out of the house and down the street a ways, and then I turned around and walked back home. Johnny must have thought I was crazy. When he came out of the house and saw me walking toward him, he asked what I was doing. I told him I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't deal with the sound and the fact that the cat was sitting there watching me like I was prey or something. Johnny said that I was being ridiculous. He went back into the house and I heard him yell, "Shut up, midnight." I wanted to tell him that it wasn't midnight, that whatever was in there wasn't our cat anymore, but I couldn't. I was too scared to go inside. As I stood there thinking about what to do, I heard a loud crash and then silence. I instantly ran to the front door and burst through it and ran into the house. Johnny was standing in the doorway to the bedroom with a wild look on his face. I asked what happened. He replied, "I don't know. I went to check on midnight and he was gone." I looked all over for him, but he was nowhere to be found. We didn't think much of it. Maybe he got out the front door or something. We went to bed and neither of us slept a wink. The next morning, we got up and got ready for our day. I tried calling into work, but I was too afraid to stay in the house by myself. My boss understood and let me off. Johnny had to leave for work, but he said he'd be home as soon as he could. After he left, I went back into the bedroom. It was then that I noticed something else. On the pillow beside where my head had been was the strangest set of impressions, like the shape of a head and even what looked like teeth marks. I jumped up and ran to the window. I looked out over the yard and into the trees across the street. I could have sworn that I saw a pair of yellow eyes staring at me from the tree line. That's when I knew that whatever was in that house was no longer our cat. To this day, Midnight has never come back. Neither has any of our cats since. Johnny and I have been married for 5 years now, and we have never let another cat in our home. And with that, creepypasta story comes to an end. That was our story from Karma. Thanks so much for submitting your story. I really enjoyed it. And if you guys want to submit your stories, there are instructions in the description box below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more content. Also, make sure to let me know what you thought of this story in the comments down below. I know I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. As always, have a great day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.